So really curious to see how much damage this does. How's it going, everyone? It's Matt here, and we're back on the Battle Stadium ladder with a super cool team featuring Indeedee Armor Rouge and Palafin, along with Double Dragon. So a quick rundown of how this team works. Essentially, you want to lead Armor Rouge plus Palafin. Palafin goes for the flip turn. It's choice scarf, so it's usually going to be moving first. You flip turn into the Armor Rouge, you proc Weak Armor to give yourself a speed boost, and you proc the Weakness Policy to give yourself a special attack boost. You immediately switch out into Indeedee on the same turn. Psychic Terrain goes up, and then you smash everything in sight with a ridiculously powerful Expanding Force. You have Follow Me to help protect the Armor Rouge. You also have Trick Room and Tailwind on the team if you want to go a different route. The Garchomp is pretty bulky with the Assault Vest, which that bulk can really catch people off guard, especially with the Terra Steel. Yeah, it's a super cool team, and I can't wait to get started. The team was built by Hirofumi Kimura, which is a very well-known Japanese player, and he managed to pilot it to 3rd place on the doubles ladder from the December season. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Let's see how well it plays. Just a quick heads up, I'm actually playing in a tournament on Wednesday. I believe it starts at 7 PM GMT. I'll be streaming it over at twitch.tv/mattmanetric. If you want to join me, that'd be great. It's a little bit of prep for Liverpool Regionals, of which I'll be there on Saturday and most of Sunday. So if you're going to be there, come and find me. Alright guys, so cracking on to our first game then. We've got Murkrow, Garchomp, Goldengo, Dragonite, Gardevoir, and Sylveon. I'm kind of thinking Gardevoir, Garchomp lead. Could also be Murkrow, Garchomp lead. It looks very likely that Garchomp's going to lead whatever happens. I suppose it could also be Murkrow, Goldengo. I think the Sylveon and Dragonite would be kept for the back. They usually are to wrap up a late game. I quite like the idea of going with these two. I think Trick Room looks really strong against this team, especially with Psychic Terrain, so we can block the extreme speeds coming out from the Dragonite. Wide Guard also going to be really useful for the Earthquakes and Make It Rains. I could have bought Palafin, but I just don't... I'm not feeling Palafin for this game. Sylveon looks pretty strong. I think they're able to hit Fairy and Fire. It cleans out my opponent's team. And then really it's a question of which Dragon do I want to bring. Do I want to go Salamence or do I want to go for the Garchomp? Do I want to go for Bulk or would I rather go for the Tailwind? And honestly, a late game Tailwind once Trick Room goes down could be really, really good here. There's also the chance that the Dragonite could be multi-scale. It could really be either way. But if it is multi-scale, then obviously we can hit it with the Intimidate. So I think we're going to go with... There are a lot of special attackers on my team, on my opponent's team actually. So do you know what? We'll go Garchomp instead. And we got the team locked in just in time. So it's going to be Murkrow and Sylveon leading for my opponent. Likely going to look at the Tailwind plus Hyper Voice option. It could also be Water or Ground Sylveon, so they may just go for the single target into my Armor Rouge, which is a little bit concerning, of course. I am going to go for Trick Room expecting... That's a bit of a risk though, really, isn't it? No, I think I will go for the Trick Room expecting the Tailwind. And if I do that, I become weak to Fairy, which isn't ideal. I could go Armor Cannon to try and take out the Murkrow. I could go Wide Guard to block the Hyper Voice. I don't think they'll Hyper Voice against a Fire type though, that's the thing, so... I think we'll go for Protect here, just to see if we can scout a potential Terra type on the Sylveon. This Trick Room may have been incorrect. Oh no, I think we're okay actually. Brings in the Garchomp. We go for the Protect. Sylveon actually protects as well, so that's really interesting. As we do go for the Trick Room. Now, I've got my own Sylveon in the back to hit like Garchomp with, which would be really nice. I'm pretty happy to click Expanding Force here. I don't think he'll Wide Guard. Excuse me, I don't think he'll Hyper Voice. So let's go for the damage. So the Garchomp does end up clicking Protect here, which is a little bit annoying. But it's okay. I didn't think he'd Protect because I thought my two Pokemon that are out don't hit Garchomp that hard. Like, Expanding Force will do a lot of damage to it, but I don't know, type matchup wise, I just didn't feel like there'd be they'd be particularly intimidated by it. So Psychic goes into Protect, however we will be able to blast off an Expanding Force here. Honestly, I might have to go for a Wide Guard next turn to try and undo my own Trick Room. Oh, Weak Armor didn't activate. Does Weak Armor only take effect on, like, contact moves? I actually don't know that mechanic behind that. I thought it was if any move hits you, your stats change. I might be wrong on that. Okay, that's alright then. We'll go for the... We'll make the same play then. We'll go Psychic into Garchomp and Expanding Force. There's the Hyper Voice. Here comes up. Here we go with the Psychic to do a little bit of damage. Oh, we get a crit. That was big damage. That was big damage, and the Expanding Force hits, doing, being able to take out the Garchomp there. Not quite able to finish off the Sylveon. I could have gone for a Psychic into the Sylveon, but I just saw the Garchomp as the biggest threat and wanted to remove it from play. So that's okay. Murkrow is what decides to switch in now. Now, Murkrow's speed is not particularly high. I could see him wanting to go for a foul play. I think my best option here is probably just to go Psychic into Sylveon to try and take it out, and then we go... I think I'm pretty happy with Click and Protect here. Remember, we've got Sylveon on the back who can come in and deal with the Murkrow, so... Sylveon does go for the Hyper Voice. Can Indeedee take one more? No. Okay, it's fine. It's alright. And we'll be able to see what the Murkrow wants to do here. It is going to be that foul play. Well, that's okay, right? Because we bring in Sylveon. Sylveon takes them both out. And then... Sylveon takes them both out, and then it's Garchomp plus Sylveon, whatever comes in. So we're okay. I could actually go for Quick Attack here into the Sylveon, if I think I'm going to be slower than the Murkrow. I don't think I will be slower than the Murkrow, though. So I'm pretty happy just to click Hyper Voice here. And actually, I'm going to go for a Wide Guard. And the reason I'm going to go for Wide Guard is to protect my... I was going to say I was going to protect my my Sylveon from an incoming Hyper Voice, but it doesn't look like my opponent wants to do that anyway. So it looks like they'll just go for the foul play onto Armarouge and let their Murkrow go down. Unless, of course, their Murkrow decides to Tailwind and maybe they're Focus Slashed or something like that, I'm not sure. But they are able to take the Hyper Voice. However, we get the Throat Spray boost, and they go for the Foul Play. Foul Play actually isn't going to be enough to take out Armarouge, which is pretty big, because it means that we do get the Weakness Policy boost, we do get the Weak Armor boost as well, so we get a Speed boost, we get the Attack boost, we get the Special Attack boost. Not that the Attack boost is particularly helpful in this situation, but we get a massive boost just as Trick Room ends, so that's pretty huge. And it looks like here I'm going to go for a Quick Attack to stop the Murkrow from being able to go for a Tailwind. And then I think an Expanding Force should be able to just take out Sylveon here. Doesn't matter, we're still going to get hit. He's still going to be able to go for the Tailwind because he outspeeds us normally. So the priority doesn't matter. He actually goes for Quick Attack himself to try and finish off Armarouge. But all that's going to do is raise our speed even further to help us beat whatever is coming in the back. We're going for Quick Attack, take out the Murkrow. That Quick Attack from my opponent's pretty big there actually, because we were at +2 speed thanks to Weak Armor. And then he went for Tailwind, which means that the speeds are kind of equalised. But now we're at +4 speed, so essentially we're at +2 against whatever my opponent brings in the back. So that's really, really nice, and I thank you for my opponent. So my opponent ends up showing me the Golden Go, which basically tells me it's game over, because we just go Terra Blast Fire, we go Armor Cannon, and there shouldn't really be anything my opponent can do in this situation. They can Terrestrialize, of course. I mean, if they're Terra Water, that'd be a little bit annoying. That was a thing that ran around for a little bit of time. But they're usually Terra Steel. There is the Terra Steel. And he thinks that he's just going to be able to try and take a double knockout here. That's not going to happen. We should outspeed him and knock him out with the Armor Cannon. If we don't, then Sylveon should wrap this game up. And here we go. Maybe my opponent goes for Protect. I think my opponent... No, they couldn't go for Protect because it would be their Tailwind that they're stalling out. So, no, that'll be a good game. Golden Go goes down to the Armor Cannon. And, yeah, Indeedee Armarouge showing what they're good at. And Sylveon pitched in a little bit as well. So, yeah, that game went really well. I'll join you for the next game. So, our game number 2 is actually against Indeedee Armarouge as well. We see yet another Murkrow. Weird that Murkrow didn't do that well in San Diego. I think that was one Murkrow that top cut. Got top 32 in it. Yet, you still see them all over the ladder. It's going to be the Annihilate, the Meowscarada, and the Maushold to partner with them as well. So, I'm thinking that it's probably going to be Final Gambit's Annihilate. That's what you tend to see on teams that may have a Trick Room element to them. And this team certainly could have a Trick Room element to them. I think I do like Palafin this time around. This Palafin, of course, doesn't have Jet Punch. And if my opponent does choose to set up Trick Room, then we can reverse the Trick Room with Indeedee. It's not a huge deal. And the rest of my opponent's team is fairly weak to Sylveon. So, obviously in the last game we had... I think we ended up going with Garchomp in the back. This time we're going to lead with the Palafin. This is great as well, because if there's any other weird prankster shenanigans that my opponent wants to try and throw at me, then Psychic Terrain will block it. I suppose there could be a little bit of an issue if he goes with the Final Gambit. The Final Gambit Annihilate. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do in that situation, because of the lack of a Ghost type on this team. But we'll see how we do. And we'll have to just react based on what they lead with, because I'm really not sure. It might be the Maushold, an Annihilate, but it might be Indeedee Armrouge. So it's going to be the Meowscarada plus Indeedee. So really, really interesting lead. Not one that I'm particularly disappointed with, to be honest with you. I could very much see a Follow Me coming out here from the Indeedee in order to block me going for the Flip Turn into Armrouge. But that's fine, right? It wouldn't bother me too much. I'm going to go for a straight switch out here and bring in my own Indeedee. I don't want to risk any annoying protects or anything like that. And I know a knockoff is coming as well. So that actually will give me a super effective hit. And I would expect to take it. We've got fairly good bulk into quite a fair bit of HP. Not a huge amount. Do you know what? I'm going to protect. This should be Follow Me plus Knockoff, or it could also be U-Turn, I suppose, if it's like Banded Meowscarada. I don't expect an attack to go into the Palafin slot, and I definitely expect him to want to try and shut down my my combination here. He ends up going Protect Indeedee, which is what I was a little bit worried about, and he does end up going for the U-Turn. So, which slot exactly? Into the Armrouge. Okay, so not bad at all. Not bad at all. I could have actually gone for the Follow Me then and really started hammering my opponent and really hurting them. The Protean plus U-Turn does make me think it's probably going to be Banded, and I think here I'm just going to go for a Follow Me. What Pokemon could you want to U-Turn into? You've got one Fire Resist, and that's the Armrouge. The chance of my opponent bringing Armrouge possibly quite high if they've got the Indeedee. I think I'm going to go for the Expanding Force though, knowing they're probably going to want a U-Turn. And I'll go into the Meowscarada slot. Interesting. They end up bringing in the Annihilate, which I'm okay with that. If my opponent goes for a knockoff here, it just hits my Culver Berry. So the knockoff is going to do very, very little. They do end up just going for the U-Turn. Which is going to be enough to knock out Indeedee, and Indeedee is very, very physically defensive, so it's almost certainly banded at this point. However, what they bring in is going to want to take a Psychic or Expanding Force, probably going to be that Indeedee coming in. It's going to be the Maushold, so it's a bit of an error from my opponent as they take massive damage from this Expanding Force. I don't think they saw that hit coming. I'll be honest with you. The Maushold is able to hang on. Massive damage from my opponent. And we actually see leftovers, so we know it is not the Choice Scarfed Final Gambit set, which is great, right? Because now I just have to bring in, I can bring in my Palafin. Palafin is pretty free to go. The thing is, I would love to flip turn my own Armrouge at this point, but now we're not we're not the slow Palafin anymore, so, or not the slow Palafin, we're not the weaker Palafin anymore, so I don't really want to be doing that anymore. I think I'm pretty happy just to go flip turn into the Meowscarada. To flip turn into— yeah, okay. If I don't target Maushold, then I put my my Sylveon under a lot of pressure. Also my Armrouge, because he could end up just going for a population onto Armrouge. So the reason I've terrestrialized here is because the Annihilate has already taken a hit, which means that Rage Punch is going to be extremely powerful. We don't have a huge amount of speed invested into this Armrouge, so I would expecting the Rage Punch. I'm just going to click Terrestrialization so we can resist it, so we probably take it, and we can go for the Expanding Force to take it out on the following turn. My opponent decides he's going to double protect, which I don't think is a bad choice of move. Usually Palafin are banded, so he can see what I'm locking myself into here. And he does now know that I'm, of course, Dark type, which means he can now go for Drain Punch on me, which is a little bit concerning. I'm actually wondering if I live a Flip Turn. I would expect to live a Flip Turn, because we don't have a huge amount of attack investment into Palafin. So I'm going to Flip Turn myself here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it's going to activate Weak Armor. And I'll still get the Speed Boost. And then we knock them both out with the Expanding Force. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Really interested to see what my opponent goes for. I presume it's going to be the Drain Punch. Now, Drain Punch actually probably won't knock us out. And if anything, it will likely just activate our Weakness Policy and Weak Armor. So, yeah, I didn't think that would knock us out. And we'll probably just take him out now with the Expanding Force. So, honestly, my opponent going for the Drain Punch there, probably not the smartest thing he could have done. Because it does now leave a massive issue for my opponent, which is, of course, my Armrouge. We think Meowscarada's banned. In fact, we know Meowscarada's banded because of the choice band. So Armrouge will be able to outspeed it. Psychic Terrain is up, which means we can't get hit by Sucker Punch. So I think at this point we're pretty happy to go Armor Cannon into that Meowscarada, followed up by a Hyper Voice into the Indeedee. And I don't really see what my opponent does here. Like, I suppose they could go for a Follow Me. But even then, my opponent's Meowscarada is taking a super effective Hyper Voice, which I really don't think they'll want to take. Like I say, Meowscarada fairly certain banded, so there'll be no Protect coming out of that slot. And we've already seen Protect on Indeedee, so I think my opponent likely has to go for the Follow Me. We're going to see the Terrestrialization. It's going to be Meowscarada, and it's going to be the Grass type. So my opponent removing the weakness to Fairy, but not able to remove the weakness from the weakness of Fire. We see the Protect come out from the Indeedee, and we do fire off this big Armor Cannon into the Meowscarada, and that is most certainly going to be a knockout. So that's pretty great. Pretty happy with that, and I believe that leaves us with just the Indeedee and... No, because my Armrouge is still in the field. For some reason I thought Armrouge was going to get knocked out, but no, that's Indeedee versus Armrouge and Sylveon, and you've got to say, that's probably going to be the game. I can't... I mean, even more so if my opponent's only attack is Psychic, because obviously we've Terrestrialized into a Dark type, so they can't... No, they really can't do anything. They decide to forfeit, and again, Indeedee Armrouge really showing what it can do. Palafin did take a pretty crucial knockout, which it actually... Within this team, it wouldn't have been able to take the knockout onto the Mousehold the way it did. Because of the Choice Scarf, we were able to outspeed it. Palafin does usually run Jet Punch, but of course Psychic Terrain was up, which means we wouldn't have been able to go for the Psychic Terrain in that situation, which would have potentially been a little bit awkward for me. Because in any other situation, that Mousehold could have just gone for a Population Bomb and quite possibly taken a knockout. So yeah, really happy. Let's jump into Game 3. And our Game 3 opponent has a really cool team featuring a Abomasnow, Rotom Freeze. It's the Killer Wattrel, the Garchomp, the Stantler, and the Arcanine. Now, what's really funny about Stantler is that I actually built a Stantler team on Showdown, and you'll be able to see what it was if you go and look at the guide that's in the description, because I show it off at the end of that team building guide. And the combination on my opponent's team here that we need to be careful of is Skill Swap Stantler. Now, Stantler is the only Pokemon that gets both Skill Swap and Intimidate in this game. So what it will do is it will skill swap Intimidate onto one of my Pokemon, Intimidate itself, which sounds counterproductive until you realise that my opponent has a competitive Killer Watch and he'll get a +2 special attack boost from it. So really cool. It also gets Trick Room, so that's something else we need to be a little bit careful of. I think I'm pretty happy going with... Yeah, we cannot afford to bring Salamis in this situation. And these two are both times for weak to Ice, and my opponent has 2 Ice types, so that's just not something I want to deal with right now. I'm going to be pretty happy with these guys. Sylveon is not the Pokemon I want to bring second. I'm going to go Armarouge. And we'll go with this team. I think we'll be okay with this. Exactly the same as what we did in the last game. I could see my opponent wanting to lead Arcanine potentially, if it's a Snarling Arcanine, because it can lower the special attack of Armarouge, it can lower the special attack of Indeedee. Not that's super helpful, but it is a thing. Lower the special attack of Sylveon as well, and of course gets Intimidate onto Palafin. It's going to be the Garchomp Stantler. It's a shiny Stantler looking very green. And of course there is the Intimidate that I just mentioned. So really interested to see how my opponent wants to play this. I think I'm just going to go for the flip turn into Armarouge and go for the Expanding Force. I don't believe Stantler gets Wide Guard. I don't think it does. It might do. If it does, then wow, but I don't believe it does. I think it kind of makes sense though. You know, maybe you could like use Wide Guard with the Antlers. Also gets Psychic Powers, doesn't it? Like, have you ever seen that episode in the anime where... I think it's in Generation 4 where Ash and Dawn and Brock go into a forest with Bewilder Forest and everyone gets hypnotised by Stantler. And honestly, I watched that when I was like 11 and it proper spooked me out, that episode. It really, really spooked me out. Anyway, we're going to see the Garchomp terrestrialize into a ground type. My opponent not scared, of course, because they have their Intimidate Stantler and Palafin is intimidated. But we're just going to go for the flip turn into Armarouge and activate Weak Armor and the Weakness Policy, of course. And we're going to bring in our Indeedee to get that Psychic Terrain up to boost the power of Expanding Force and, of course, make it a spread move. And honestly, this might be a double down. I'm fairly certain this will take out Garchomp. Whether or not it'll take out Stantler, because Stantler, of course, does get the Violite in this game, which it gets that because once Home comes out, you'll be able to transfer Weirdeer into this game. So Stantler can technically evolve. So really curious to see how much damage this does. Alright, Armarouge, calm down, buddy. Calm down. Wow. Armarouge just drops the Garchomp Stantler. We didn't even get to see what Stantler wanted to do, unfortunately, because I really would have been curious to see what else the Stantler has up its sleeve. I'm sure it was Trick Room, Skill Swap, Protect, and maybe like Psychic or something. It's going to be the Abomasnow, and I'm going to presume the Rotom. Yeah, I mean, both of my opponent's Pokemon, sorry, are weak to Fire, so I'm not even going to go for the Fire move here. I'm actually just going to go Psychic into Abomasnow because it usually runs a Focus Sash, and I'm just going to go Expanding Force. And they just forfeit. They just forfeit. And there's game 3. A whole 1 turn for game 3. But honestly, that turn showed how lethal this combination really is if you get it going. And that's what I really wanted to showcase with this team. Obviously, we didn't see Palafin do too much. But Palafin's a great Pokemon for it because obviously it wants to switch out anyway. So, but yeah, so now we've shown that the true potential of this team. I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.